All right, it's making Windows Event Forwarding great again. So, disclaimer: all opinions are my own. They don't reflect my employer. This is just me. You know the verbiage. Is anyone familiar with Windows Event Forwarding? Or let me rephrase that: is anybody not familiar with Windows Event Forwarding, since this is a security event? I assume everybody's familiar with it. By show of hands, how many people have more than 10,000 endpoints they're collecting with Windows Event Forwarding? 50,000? 100,000? Okay. So some of the pros of Windows Event Forwarding: it's free, in air quotes, of course. It's built into Windows. It's quick and flexible to deploy, since it is built into Windows. You can use it essentially collect your logs through Windows Logs. You can use it standalone, or you can ingest it into your SIM. Some of the cons, though, unfortunately, it's flexible, which again, it's also a pro. Because it is so flexible, the documentation and the guides are very complex, and it can lead you down different rabbit holes. Scalability is also an issue because of VM costs. They do scale, but you need to scale out your VMs to be able to handle the load. Right sizing can be challenging. The guides themselves aren't really that straightforward. You have to do a lot of digging and research and trial and error in your environment. Some of the issues you might run into is disk I/O, network connections, pruning of the registry, something that's not poorly documented, and or not just even discussed in the guides that you might run across. If you do have some issues where you have to rebuild VMs, it could be an issue of over 10,000 Windows Event Forwarding sources in your registry, and you basically have to kill and rebuild your VM. So those are some unfortunate cons. With the Windows Event Forwarding, you have your event IDs, which, as you can see here, we have some guides here for event IDs, also known as vendor message IDs, VM IDs, that are categorized to basic events, basic SIM stuff. People ask, what should we collect? The NSA does actually have a decent guide out there. Here's some of the log sources they do actually call out. You'll notice on here that unfortunately sysmod is not called out. Maybe on purpose, may not be. Just find it interesting. So how did this talk come about? We had a SIM that was deployed, and our SIM lied to us for years. It kept telling us that our events were all caught up. Fast forward a couple years, a couple upgrades, and we found out that the system no longer was keeping up. So post-upgrade, we were about 24 hours behind on every single log source, all our servers, all workstations, everything. And the boss wouldn't give us any more VMs to be able to handle the load. So we ended up having to have a couple of challenges. We needed to figure out what right sizing was, determine the number of collectors we actually needed, with a goal of 15 minutes or less. So with that, we installed the guides. You'll see various information out there called events or endpoints with different numbers and different configuration guides. It's just all over the board. So it's very, very confusing what you actually need to do. Fast forward, I did find a post. What the magic ratio ended up being was servers count as 4, workstations count as 1 for your number of events. That was from a post from, I believe, Jessica Payne from 2015. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the documentation to back it up, but that is the number I did find, and it did work in our environment. In our environment, we have basically OUs for servers and workstations. Basically, all the collectors are servers, and your workstations, of course, in your workstation OU. GPOs linked to those to forward the events, the appropriate collectors. Basic kind of diagram in our environment that we did come across. We have a server load balance instance and a workstation load balance instance. What we ran into was our GPO didn't exclude the collectors, so we had a lot of crosstalk between all the collectors, sending noise to the other collectors, and just killing the system. It kept up, but it was slowing everything down. We cleaned that up and instantly got 20% improvement right off the bat by just excluding the collectors from the appropriate GPO. So cutting out some additional noise, we actually had a service from a biomedical vulnerability scanner that was hitting all of our endpoints. And it was setting every endpoint roughly every 4 to 6 hours on 50,000 endpoints. So it would create a lot of noise and a lot of extra redundancy we didn't really need. What we're seeing here is an example of an XML event log. I don't personally read XML very well, but you can see it's a little complex. The two key takeaways, there's actually a system section and event data section. That is kind of the key to the event logs. So what we have here is a suppression filter that I use to actually exclude the biomedical vulnerability scanner events. How that kind of works, you have your event log source that you can actually edit, shown here at the lower right, and you just apply that whole suppression path in that section there. So how it kind of breaks down, you can kind of see it's a little bit better here. It's very complex with a lot of brackets and quotation marks. Everything kind of breaks in together. So I hate writing these. I kept breaking them every time I would submit them. It wouldn't work. So I ended up writing a script to kind of help on that. I'll show that here in a second. One of the other log sources I did find was event ID 111, which is from every endpoint talking to your collectors. This happens on every single endpoint talking to your collectors. So all it says is I connected. That is not really useful. So we cut that out. That right there is our suppression thing to delete that event so we don't have to have it in our SIM. Just cuts down more overhead, and it gives us more ability to process more logs. So cutting out some of the noise, this is an example I'm going to show here in a second from Windows Defender. And the script I kind of wrote, it parses the XML out, and it will actually break out the suppression here for you and give you a sample. Just another one here for Sysmon. And then if I break it down here a little bit closer, you'll see a little bit better here. So the script will actually cut out and give you the output here, and you can just substitute the values. So if you have a computer, you just copy and paste it all out for you. The script sets it up for you. I hate doing this. It happens a couple times a year. So that's why I wrote the script, to be able to help it if and when I have to do it again. So, but real quick, right to the point. Any questions? I guess not. All right. Thank you, everyone.